With the psychological part, we know that the most important law that affects salespeople, or anybody for that matter, was discovered more than 3,000 years before Christ. It's called the law of correspondence. And the law of correspondence simply says that as within, so without. It says that your outer world is a reflection of your inner world. It says that everywhere you go, there you are. Is it everywhere you go? It's almost like you're in a 360-degree mirror. Everywhere you look, there you are. Your relationships, your health, your income, your attitudes, your personality, everything on the outside is determined by what's going on the inside. Now, this is a powerful law, and it's very important because of this. If you want to change any part of your life, you start by changing the way you think about yourself on the inside. From the time immemorial, going back to Socrates and Plato and Aristotle,
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back. Thank you for tapping in. Let's go ahead and get into it because I'm here for a good time, not a long time. As within, so without. Yeah, today we are going to touch upon what that short just discussed, the law of correspondence, how your inner world shapes your outer reality. Hmm. Don't you know somebody who's just is always going through something every time you see them. You may not necessarily try to link up with this person per se, but you just happen to run into them every now and then, and they just always got a story to tell about the hell that they're going through. Hey, I mean, I know some people like that, and one thing I know is you know they problems don't start from what's going on with other people. Their problems start with themselves, the way they think, how they consume, the people that they interact with, and the reasons why they interact with those people to begin with. That's what's causing their problems. But you got other people who life just always seems to not necessarily be perfect, but when you run into certain people, they always got a good story to tell. Always speaking, more on the positive side. People like that, you see the trajectory that they're on, and you know how their life normally gets better versus those people who are always focused on speaking about the hell that they seem to be going through. Let's get into it. Mhm. So, yes, the principle of correspondence. Life is a mirror. Ancient wisdom and modern psychology have each come to the same conclusion. Our external life is a structural projection of our internal landscape. The universe does not just occur around us, it responds to who we are, manifesting the dynamics of our beliefs, emotions, and self concepts onto the canvas of daily experience. So, yeah, um, who you are shows in your reality. It's like the life that you live is a direct reflection of the type of person that you are, how tapped into yourself, into the most high, um, that will reflect in just how you live. They say that we're born looking like our fathers, but we die looking like our decisions, and that's definitely there is truth to that. Your life at this point is made up of all of the beliefs that you have carried with you, um, and the decision that you have made up until this point. At the same time, you do have the ability to change, your program and upgrade it if you're not where you are, or perhaps maybe you are where you want to be, and you just need to continue on that path. The image in this slide, it makes me think of that. What's the phrase? What's done in the dark um, shall be, what's done in the dark shall come to light. And a lot of people, they think that the night, follows the day. But day and night, like the song or something. But I'm somebody personally who, I look at life as, just the opposite way. I think that, the night, just in the sense of the darkness, is what prepares us for, the light. What we do, what I do every night, just, in the sense of planning the day ahead, taking care of, myself so I can, be my best that next day. I think that, that's how I look at life. I start at night. I make my intentions at night. I, practice certain, rituals at night. I get things done at night in order to, take over and be able to conquer the day. Um, Hold on. Actually, it's yeah. If we pull up the the Bible verses, yeah, the beginning of the Bible, Genesis chapters 1, verse 2. Now the earth was formless and empty; darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. God saw that light was good, and he separated the light from the darkness. So, just, based on that scripture right there, you can see that, just if you ask me, in my opinion, a lot of people have it backwards just as far as how to create in this world. Um, you start from, you know, on the ground. You start from the darkness. You create in the dark. You create at night, in order to be able to, more so attract what you um, are seeking for the day. But yeah, back to this correspondence. The dual lenses of mindset. So this is just, the scarcity versus abundance mindset, the lens of threat. When the mind operates from unresolved fear and scarcity, the nervous system scans for validation. Neutral events are seen as hostile. Strangers are categorized as adversaries, and progress feels hindered by external forces. The lens of horizon, seeking, that abundance mindset, operating from deep trust and emotional resilience, transforms the nervous system. Challenges are filtered as creative constraints. Connections open naturally, and pathways materialize where barricades once stood. Again, this, the choice is yours, in the sense of just, do you want to choose to vibrate, from a place of high frequency, or are you gonna, continue to make decisions that lower your vibe and that, just that bring you down? Don't do it, man. Emotions as living filters. Emotions are, important part of life. It's important that you feel things that you go through. At the same time, you have to be able to step outside of yourself at all times. You definitely can't be out here living as if your emotions control your being. That's just being a child, and I don't know. Tend to hang out with adults myself. Our emotional states color our perception of the environment in real time. A stormy emotional core perceives hostility, even in genuine smiles, while internal warmth reveals opportunity and hidden pathways in complex situations. We do not observe the world objectively. We observe our internal climate projected onto it. So, yeah, same message. You know, what you see out of life is a projection of who you are. 95% of subconscious control, the invisible governor, a staggering percentage of daily behaviors driven entirely by the subconscious self narrative. Our external success and boundaries naturally align with what we silently believe we deserve. True transformation is not trying to force external luck, but lifting the internal ceiling of self acceptance. Um, yeah, just think about that. This number and high percentage. Think about the fact that majority of people are moving unconsciously. They're just not necessarily thinking about what they're doing. They're just moving to be moving. More so in this sense because they're probably programmed by other folk and going along with the plan. I like to create my own plan. The unconscious shadow. Unconscious suppression. So repressed components of the self do not vanish. They are outward bound projections interpreted as antagonists or threats in others. You got to do your shadow work. You have to reflect on, those negative emotions, those negative thought patterns that you have. You gotta, journal those thoughts out, get to the bottom of why you feel the way you feel about certain people and certain, things or ideas. Are you following some form of ideology that you aren't even aware of? Are you envious of, somebody that you claim you don't like? The defense trap. Deep insecurities construct physical and mental defenses that inadvertently provoke conflict from the environment, validating the fear. The integration key. Awareness of these projections acts as the primary tool of reconciliation. Dissolving the internal friction dismantles the external storm. So, yeah, being able to, integrate these projections again, it comes from understanding your shadow, knowing, your light and dark selves, not looking at yourself necessarily as a good or bad person, but just understanding who you are as a whole being able to look at yourself, from a 360 degree, level of view and understanding as much of yourself as possible, ensuring that you're not moving in ignorance and blindness. You have to know all aspects of yourself, the light and dark. Begin from within. When you change the way you see the world you see begins to change. hmm As I grow older, and just become more of myself, yeah, I definitely am somebody who can see myself as having more of a responsibility in this world. I have, a role to play, a purpose to fulfill, and I seek to do that. I seek to take accountability and responsibility for just who I am in this world. Um, and I have that. I have the choice, to determine and then make that decision of who it is I'm going to be, and that gives me ultimate freedom of you know a life. So yeah, um, as you become somebody who is grown or of age and knows that you have responsibility and you are somebody who can take accountability for who you are. um, Again, that it gives you the ultimate freedom. It separates you from the rest of the children out here. But yeah, that's today's episode, and catch you next time. Peace.